10 by 10 series #2 Being and Becoming brought by KUDE, CUDA. Hello, welcome back to our series about the Western philosophy. The idea of an unchanging being and change has been a central concept in Western philosophy since its inception. This idea was first developed in ancient Egypt, where the belief in the immortality of the soul led to the concept of an unchanging essence that exists beyond the physical world. Pythagoras, a philosopher and mathematician who lived in ancient Greece, developed this idea further, suggesting that the universe is governed by mathematical principles and that the soul is immortal and eternal. Parmenides, another philosopher from ancient Greece, built on Pythagoras' ideas by arguing that the universe is composed of an unchanging, eternal substance that he called being. He believed that this substance was indestructible and unchangeable, and that all other things in the universe were merely illusions or appearances that masked the underlying reality of being. Plato, one of the most influential philosophers in Western thought, was heavily influenced by the ideas of Pythagoras and Parmenides. He believed that the physical world was a mere shadow or imitation of the world of forms, which existed beyond the physical realm. According to Plato, the world of forms was the realm of unchanging, eternal entities that were the true objects of knowledge and understanding. Plato's ideas about the forms had a profound influence on subsequent philosophers, including Aristotle, who believed that the forms were not separate entities but rather the essential properties of things in the physical world. Aristotle believed that these essential properties could be discovered through observation and empirical study, rather than through purely abstract reasoning. In the medieval period, the concept of an unchanging being played a central role in Christian philosophy, where it was used to argue for the existence of God as an eternal and unchanging entity. The medieval philosopher Thomas Aquinas argued that God was the source of all being and that the universe was created by God's will. In the modern era, the idea of an unchanging being continued to be a topic of philosophical inquiry, with thinkers such as René Descartes and Immanuel Kant exploring the concept in their own ways. Descartes argued that the essence of the self was an unchanging, eternal substance that was distinct from the physical body, while Kant believed that the concept of an unchanging being was a necessary precondition for the possibility of knowledge. In contemporary philosophy, the concept of an unchanging being continues to be a topic of debate and discussion. Some philosophers, such as Richard Swinburne, argue that the existence of an unchanging being is necessary to explain the origins of the universe and the complexity of the natural world, while others, such as Daniel Dennett, reject the concept as a relic of outdated metaphysical thinking. While the concept of an unchanging being was central to the philosophy of thinkers such as Pythagoras, Parmenides, and Plato, there were other philosophers who emphasized the importance of change and flux in the universe. One such philosopher was Heraclitus, who famously declared that all is flux and argued that change was the fundamental characteristic of the universe. According to Heraclitus, everything is in a constant state of flux, and the only constant is change itself. Aristotle, one of the most influential philosophers in Western thought, built on the ideas of Heraclitus by emphasizing the importance of change and development in the natural world. Unlike Plato, who believed in the existence of an unchanging world of forms, Aristotle believed that the world was constantly in motion and that everything was subject to change and development over time. He argued that the universe was composed of four basic elements: earth, water, air, and fire, that could be transformed into one another through a process of change and transformation. While the emphasis on change and flux in the philosophy of Heraclitus and Aristotle might seem at odds with the idea of an unchanging being, there are some important similarities between the two approaches. For one thing, both Heraclitus and Aristotle recognized the importance of pattern and structure in the natural world, even as they acknowledged the fundamental role of change and flux. Moreover, both approaches suggest that the universe is not static or unchanging, but rather a dynamic and ever-changing system that is constantly in motion. In many ways, the debate between those who emphasize change and those who emphasize stability and permanence is a fundamental tension that runs throughout the history of philosophy. While the idea of an unchanging being has played an important role in Western thought, There have always been those who have questioned the assumption that the universe is fundamentally unchanging or stable. Whether one emphasizes change or stability, however, the central questions of philosophy remain the same: what is the nature of the universe, and what is our place within it? Thank you for watching. DallE or Esau.